Good evening, it's Friday 4th of September and I'm sat back in the Radio Nook with another parcel. Now this parcel I was going to open earlier in the week, but something else intervened, so I'm going to open that now for you. I'm going to open this one now for you. This has been sent by, let's have a look, the Unreality Store, so I actually do know what this is. I didn't actually notice that first time when it arrived. I wasn't quite sure what it was, but it's quite sturdy packaged. Careful with the knife. I don't want to do myself an injury again, because that's happened. Right. Okay. Well, I wasn't expecting that, but I was expecting this. So what have I got? I have the Best of Dragon from the Strategic Review and the Dragon Volumes 1 and 2. Now, I've seen the second one of these, which is Volumes 3 and 4. That's got the green cover, the green dragon rather than the red dragon. Now, this has got a price label of it of £1.95. Forever People, which is a comic book shop in Bristol. And this was published, 1980. So this is 40 years old, so this will be interesting to read and review. It's often forgot that essentially with long-running magazines they would put out best-of issues. So for Dragon magazine there were 2 volumes like this, and then for there was one for Imagine magazine, which is only 30 issues overall. But for White Dwarf magazine, back in its heyday, switch over to Games Workshop titles only, back when it supported role-playing games, so we're talking the first 100 issues, there were a total of 6 of these. So you had Best of White Dwarf scenarios 1, 2 and 3, and Best of White Dwarf articles 1, 2 and 3. And you know, there was a lot to choose from the pages of White Dwarf over the sort of like the 10 years or so it was publishing content for role-playing games, those of other publishers and its own. So what have we got in here? So we have things like some ideas missed in Metamorphosis Alpha, an alternate sequence for Metamorphosis Alpha. So there's one from an article by James M. Ward and one by Guy W. Micklemore. Hints for D&D judges. Part 1 Towns, Part 2 Wilderness, Part 3 Dungeons, and this is by Joe Fisher. Languages, or could you repeat that in Old Wormage by Lee Gold. Tony Watson, The Development of Towns in D&D. The Plays the Thing, Thomas Fillmore. Designing for Unique Wilderness Encounters by Daniel Clifton. Deserted Cities of Mars for Jim Ward. Certainly with the sort of the content for Metamorphosis Alpha, that's since been a lot that's been reprinted in the Treasury edition of Metamorphosis Alpha, and I have reviewed that. It's a really fantastic book. Let's have a look. How Heavy is My Giant by Schlump de Ork. And the thing is, you go back and the emphasis on towns and sort of like successful wilderness and things like that. I mean, these are quite common subjects for magazines and early white dwarf and early dragons. So you got the complete town planner and that sort of thing, or the monster mark system. Quite a few pieces here from James M. Ward. Tolkien in Dungeons and Dragons by Rub Kuntz. That's a really interesting read. Notes from a semi-successful D&D player, again by James Ward. Contributes quite a lot, does James Ward does Mr. Ward. Gary Gygax on Dungeons and Dragons. Again, understandably, quite a lot of content from him. Things like that. There's also, I think, possibly, I'm not sure there's anything missing from the middle here. And it's always interesting, sort of like some of the adverts that date back from the day. How sort of lot, and the artwork is, it's not what you would call sophisticated by modern standards. I'm not saying it's bad. There's an advert there for Glorantha, where to go, where to start. Basically, a choose your own path adventure on the little advert there. Excerpt from an interview with the Rust Monster, Michael McCreary. Variants, so you've got illusionists, generally appearing as a new class for Dungeons and Dragons by Peter Aronson, with more illusionist additions. Tombs and Crypts by James M. Ward. Halflings, Dwarves, Clerics and Thieves in Dungeon by Gary Gygax. So he's not just writing for Dungeons and Dragons, he's also writing for the Dungeon board game. Let's have a look. Dan Schwigman, Statistics Regarding Classes, Additions, Bards. The original Ranger class by Joe Fisher. Wizard Research Rules by Charles Preston Goldforth Jr. Lots of stuff in here. Oh, and things like this. There's an advert for Gangster from Fantasy Games Unlimited, which is something I will get around to reviewing. I do have a copy of that. Monkish Combat in an Arena of Promotion by John M. Seaton. Oh, lots of recognisable names. Gary Gygax does solo Dungeons and Dragons adventures. Lycanthropy, The Progress of the Disease by Gary Rinn. The Japanese Mythos by Jerome Arkenberg, and so on. Interesting, basically pen and ink illustration there. That's fantastic. So that's Best of Dragon Volumes 1 and 2. And also, unsurprisingly, I didn't order this, but it's in there anyway. Dragon number 53, which is quite a nice cover. It's got promises to have. It's loose, but that's fine. It's probably the earliest issue of Dragon I now have, possibly apart from the best of there. And one of these days, I'd love to sit down and just go through and read these things and talk about them. But it's time and effort, and having the space to actually go through them all. So let's just check to see what that award-winning module is. See whether it says it in here. I can find the content. Regular visit, good possession. Let's have a look. Special attraction: the Garden of Nepheron, winner of the AD&D division. An International Dungeon Design Contest 2, so page 33. There we go. So, that's Dragon number 53. A bit of a surprise. It's not something I'll be reviewing anytime soon, I am sure, but I will look at the Best of Dragon volumes 1 and 2, and somehow I possibly might track down my Best of volumes 3 and 4, though that might take some difficulty. I'm not entirely sure what that is. I do remember having a copy, and I have read it in the past. Anyway, so there we go. That's a bit of a flashback for some people of a certain age. This would have been back when I was about 15, 16, that sort of thing. So thanks for watching, and yes, another unboxing in the Nook, and I will be back with more over the weekend.